Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Brainy Boomer Lecture Series. We're so very happy you've all joined us today. We would like to begin by acknowledging that McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging is located and our work is done on unceded Indigenous lands. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Tiohtià:ke, commonly known as Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many Indigenous peoples. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future and our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples we serve within the Montreal community. In 2007, the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging, or the MCSA Education Committee, started the Brainy Boomer Lecture Series in order to suggest practical steps to both improve and maintain brain health, as well as to promote healthy lifestyle choices amongst the most populous generation in history. The MCSA Education Committee, which was founded in 1996, has three main objectives: identifying education needs of healthcare providers, seniors, caregivers, and the public, and to develop responses to meet some of their needs; to enhance the positive image of the aging process by addressing stereotypes and myths about aging; and finally, the dissemination of research on aging. Our guest today is Shiva Uzaman, who is a trained professional organizer with Professional Organizers in Canada. From being a graphic designer to a stay-at-home mom, she soon discovered the importance of having an organized home after having children. Now she finds her passion in helping others feel the same sense of calm and an organized space can bring. Before continuing, we would like to remind you to please mute yourself on Zoom, and that if you have any questions, you can either write them down in the chat box, or you could wait until the end of the event to ask them. And now I'd like to invite Shiva to start her presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to present today. I will share my screen shortly. Okay, thank you so much, Caitlin, for that introduction. And I'm so glad to be presenting here for all of you today. So today I'll be sharing some simple tips on how to be better organized and to downsize your space. Before I begin, I just wanted to talk a little bit about myself, even though Caitlin has given a perfect introduction for myself. My name is Shiva Uzaman. I am a trained professional organizer with the trained professional organizers in Canada. I've been an organizer for the past 5 years. And I discovered my passion soon after I had kids. So I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And before that, I was a graphic designer. And I decided to take some time to, stay at home with them and be a stay-at-home mom. And that's when I discovered my passion for organizing, just because anyone who has had kids must remember it's a tough time, right? It's like, it's a whole new schedule. You have, a whole new being you have to take care of. Any routine that you might have had just basically goes out the window. So in order for me to be the best version of myself, I really needed my environment to be calm. I needed to know where my belongings were. We're running on less sleep. So, everything had to be basically have a system in the home. So that's where I discovered that that's what I needed to be the best version of myself. And I really discovered the importance for everyone, basically, to help others discover that as well. Okay, going next. Okay, perfect. So today, again, like I mentioned, we'll be sharing some tips on how to downsize your space. And if that's not something that you're into right now, downsizing doesn't have to be moving into a smaller home, like from a larger space. It could also be to downsize your belongings and the items in your home. So another form of decluttering. So I'll kind of touch upon those topics today. Let me just get into here. So step one, basically, you've already accomplished that. You're here today, you're hearing me present. Don't wait for that perfect time to start the whole process. You can start just today. Again, you're listening to this presentation, you're getting ideas in your head, you have that intention to make changes in your day-to-day. If it's something that's down the line, basically, today's the day. You're going to start small and you're going to start today. It's actually funny. I'm in the middle of a move myself. I'm moving to Ontario. And if you kind of see here, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have my moving boxes here. And if you ask me when I started this whole process of, getting ready for my move, it was actually the day that I first set that intention that, a move is in the process. We need to kind of figure out, we need a change in our lives. So the very first thing that I did, again, to stop that overwhelming, I have to do this, I have to get this done. I just basically simplified and I stopped the flow in. So basically anything that I was getting ready to purchase or any purchase that I was about to make, I thought to myself, I questioned myself, okay, do I really need this at this point? I know I'm moving soon. Do I really need to, transport this item from one place to another? Just some certain questions, you don't have to do put up a whole list of things to do. Basically, it's just a small step of, stopping that flow into your home, right? The whole goal here is now we're going to go through our items. We're going to declutter. Just, question yourself, do I really need to get this? And do I really need to add more to the items in? Okay, step 2. It's one of my favorites. Have less stuff and to declutter often. So we are living in a time right now where it is so easy to just, with the click of a button, on your laptop, you have an Amazon delivery at your door the very next day. So it's very easy to start accumulating and getting more and more. And pretty soon it seems as if our objects are controlling us, right? It seems like we are surrounded by our items and it feels like we're drowning in our stuff. So everything that we own, it takes up physical space in our home and mental space in our mind. So I'm going to repeat that again. Everything we own takes up physical space in our home and mental space in our mind. So we have to be really conscious of the items that are already in our space and any items that we'll be bringing into our space. And again, when it came time to list my own place up for sale, the very first thing I did was I went through everything. I mean, I could have, started and try to find movers and do this. And there's always things to do. But the very first thing I did was I assessed every item that was in my home. I took account into everything that was in my place. And I asked myself, okay, do I really need to keep this? Again, I'll be transporting this from my home here into my next home. Do I really need to hold on to it? So questions to kind of ask yourself to get this whole process started and figure out, okay, these are the items I'm keeping versus these are the items that I can let go of. Now, if you think about decluttering your home as a whole, it will start to feel very overwhelming very quickly. It's not that bad if you break it down into tiny steps. So that's what I'm going to kind of share in the next few slides, where to start. So I would suggest you start with the space that you don't have an emotional attachment with, right? So I'm not going to ask you the very first day to go and start decluttering your photo albums, because chances are what's going to end up happening is you're going to get caught up in, reliving memories from your past, and it's going to take you a long time. So I would not suggest to start with a space that you have emotional attachment with and things like that. So start with something that's a small space, something that you can accomplish within a small period of time. So again, a junk drawer is a perfect example. Chances are you'll be able to get it done within 20 minutes. Set yourself a timer. And, just start with that space. So you're going to start small and you're going to build yourself up to larger spaces. So decluttering is very much like building muscle, right? You start small and you build yourself up to larger spaces. So again, what I recommend to all my clients, start with the junk drawer. And before you begin, I want you to set up your staging area. So you're going to have a flat surface nearby and have on hand these 4 different categories. So a place to put trash, anything that's going to come out of your junk drawer that you don't want anymore. So you have your garbage, you have recycling, you have a place to keep your donations, anything that you no longer want, but it's still in good condition that you want to give away to someone, and a space for giveaways to your friends and family. But again, always do ask permission to your friends and families, because sometimes we place more importance on our belongings. They might not share that same value. And also you just want to check to see if they're willing to accept it. But also know that if they don't accept it, or, keep in mind, maybe they might donate it. So, that's okay as well. Again, they might not have space for the things, but if it's something that you want to give to them, make sure you have their permission before giving it to them. So basically, these steps that I'm going to share with you next, it's like my formula for decluttering and organizing any space. Okay, it's the same set of steps that you'll be doing. And if you can tackle this space, basically any space in your home, you can be following the same formula to tackle that space as well. So you're going to start by taking everything out from that junk drawer. Now, I know it might seem like you'll be making more of a mess and, why do I have to pull everything out if I'm just going to put things back in? But trust me and trust the process. It's all part of it's all part of my formula. You pull everything out. Again, make sure you have a flat surface nearby you have your staging area set up too. So as you're pulling everything out, now's a perfect chance to do a good wipe down as well of the space. So you have an empty space, you wipe it down, you clean it before you start putting things back. And as you're pulling things out, I want you to sort into similar categories. So again, you have your flat surface nearby, and as you're pulling out, just start putting like items with like items. So, if you have a pile of batteries, make sure you're putting your batteries together. If you have some pens that are coming out, just make sure all the categories that you're pulling out, you're grouping them by category. Again, if you see something that's broken or something that you don't need anymore, feel free to, throw it out. If it's something you don't want, put it into your pile for donations. So kind of, this is like a simple way to kind of start this whole process. Now, I know decluttering is tough and it might not be easy for everyone. So here's like some questions that you can ask yourself as you're going through this whole process, especially if you come across an item that you're kind of stuck on. So do I love it? Have I used it within the last year? So sometimes we keep things just for the sake of keeping it, and we might need it, we might need it someday. But realistically speaking, if you haven't used it in the last year, you've gone through, all 4 seasons and you haven't used it, chances are you might not need it. And if it's taking up space in your home, maybe it's better to let that item go. Do I have multiples? Once I was helping a client declutter, and we came across 7 flashlights. Now, again, flashlight is something that's very useful, but do we actually need 7 flashlights, right? So, in that situation, it's best to ask yourself, okay, let's maybe choose the one that's in the best condition, maybe the one that you gravitate towards more, rather than keep all 7. Let's keep, maybe 1 or 2. Is the only reason that you're keeping this item is because it's expensive? Now, this is a tricky one, because I've come across many clients of mine that, they feel very guilty if it's something either they've spent money on or, they were gifted the item and they know that it costs a lot of money. That's fine. The money that you spent on the item has already been spent. Okay. If it's something that is not bringing you joy, or it's not something that is coming in handy, or maybe you've just kind of outgrown it, it's okay to let that item go. And again, if it's valuable, maybe selling it is an option. So, certain questions to kind of ask yourself as you're, doing this process. But if you're only holding on to it because it's expensive, it might not be the best reason. Basically, there's other options you can look at. Does it still work? Now, again, sometimes, with the junk drawer, you come across an item and it broke, or it's something that's on your list of things to do to fix it, and you'll just kind of toss it into the junk drawer. If it doesn't work and realistically speaking, you're not going to spend that time and fix it. Maybe it's time to let it go. Would I miss it if it were gone? Does it fit my current lifestyle? Is it something, maybe a hobby you took up, maybe at the start of COVID? Maybe you took up knitting and it was something that was great then when you had the time. And now, things are opening up again and maybe you're not into that same hobby anymore. Do you still need to keep the items? Do you still need to keep, all the equipment for that? And what about if I were shopping right now, would I buy this same item? Again, you don't have to ask all these questions, but it's a good guideline of where to start if you find yourself stuck on a certain item. Okay, now you have all your items pulled out. They're all into categories. You've decluttered the items that you no longer need or serve you purpose anymore. What you're going to do now is you're going to assign that space. You're going to assign a clear purpose for that space. What will that space be? Right? Junk drawers typically are a mishmash of things, but what ends up happening is you just end up tossing a bunch of things together. It becomes very random and you no longer know what's inside, right? It just becomes a mix of things. So assign a clear purpose for that space. And you can kind of judge that based on the items that are coming out of your junk drawer. If it were more, tools and utilities, would you keep, maybe that drawer is meant for that. Or, do you go to that space if you need a pen or you need something to write? So assign a purpose for that space and just keep the items that serve that purpose in that space. So again, here's an example of the same drawer, but we used it to hold household tools. And then we also used it to hold office supplies. Okay, I'm just gonna take a sip of water. Now, decluttering is not just a trendy thing lately, but it's also a matter of safety. So having a decluttered home, it can be dangerous, even if you might not know it, but basically having less items equals safer. Clutter provides tripping hazards. Make sure your fire exits are all clear and kept clear of any clutter. All the doors in your home should be able to open completely. Make sure there's no items stacked behind your door. You want all your heat registers, your air vents to be clear and free of clutter. Stacks of clutter can fall on you. It can be quite dangerous, So again, having less is definitely safer. And again, clutter is an invitation to pests and mold. You want a clear surface, so you don't want to attract those pests and mold. So here's an example of a space that I just decluttered for my client last week. The first space here, it's very cluttered, it's not safe. There's no space for ventilation. If my client wanted to go look for something, she kind of doesn't know where to start. And it's a mix of a mash of things, right? The second space here, we've moved some of the dangerous items like this bathtub, we moved it down, again, to prevent items from toppling onto her. Now, I want you to understand, this whole transition, it's not easy and it might make you feel overwhelmed. It's very laborious. So, it's not fun for everyone. Not everyone finds it fun like I do, but keep telling yourself that this is just a reset. It's a way to refresh your home. Maintain that positive outlook and focus on the things that you're gaining, not focus on the space that you're gaining, not the items that you are losing. Now, before you begin, decluttering the whole home and looking at all the items in your space, I want you to write down everything that you need to get done. Anything that's coming to your mind that, I have to make sure I have to tackle my storage area. I have to make sure my closets are clear. Just write anything and everything down and focus on 1 or 3 things per day. I call this method my brain dump. Sometimes, before I go to bed, I just have a bunch of thoughts in my head that are keeping me up. And the first thing I do, I just grab a piece of paper and I just write it down. Even if I don't accomplish anything that day, just the process of me, emptying my mind and putting it on paper is enough to kind of calm my brain in order for me to sleep. And I know that, I'll focus on 1 or 3 things the next day. So get into the habit of always going through your list and choosing your high priority items, things that are, time sensitive, and you can focus on that. So again, if you're doing just a little bit of day, you're still making progress. Now, you've listed all your items, all your things that you need to get done before you move or before you, transition to another space. Set specific deadlines for yourself, right? Focus on the items that are high priority, things that are time sensitive, and start there. So you're going to start with the most important items first, working your way down. Okay. Now, so you're going to focus on one room and space at a time. So if on your to-do list, you've written down, declutter my bedroom, don't take that whole bedroom as one task, because break that bedroom down into multiple zones. And like we did with the junk drawer, we started with a small space. Start with maybe your bedside table, right? It's a small enough space for you to tackle within, 10, 15 minutes, maybe. Go through the items the same way that I taught you with the junk drawer. Pull everything out, assess everything before you put it back in. And once you've completed the nightstand, move on to maybe a dresser or move on to your closet. And rather than closet as a whole, focus on maybe just your shoes or maybe just your shirts, your blouses, then your pants. Break up that big task of your organizing your bedroom or decluttering your bedroom into bite-sized tasks. And realistically speaking, if you are downsizing, you are more than likely moving from a larger space to a smaller space. So chances are, things that fit into your current space might not necessarily fit into your new space. For example, if you have a large dining table that seats 8 people, realistically speaking, it might not be fitting into the new space. So make sure you have, if you are able to have measurements of your new space, that's ideal. And you can take that into account when you're looking at your large furniture pieces to figure out what could possibly fit into your new space. Start with the large pieces and kind of work around that. Okay. Now, collections is another tricky thing, because it's okay to have collections and things that you, if they bring you joy. But again, put a limit on how many you keep. You don't really need to keep the whole collection. Maybe keep the ones that are in the best condition or the ones that have a sentimental value for you, right? Maybe if you have duplicates, that's a place to start. Maybe rather than keep 3 of the same item, we just keep the one that's in the best condition. If it's tough, again, I know that it might be tough to just let it go. Rather than keep the physical item, another option is you can take a photo of that piece and before you let go. So again, you have that memory of it, you have a photo of it, rather than find space for that physical item. So it's okay to keep collections, but let's maybe put a limit on them. Now, decluttering might send you down memory lane, and that's perfectly okay. I actually encourage you to take some time and reminisce. Maybe, once you get to those sentimental pieces, have a friend or family come over and, share those stories as you're going through them, as you're looking through your old photos and old family mementos. You do want to be as efficient as possible, but again, it's okay to take that time, honor those memories that are present in your family's treasures, and, share those stories. Now, as I mentioned multiple times, this whole process, it is overwhelming, and don't be shy to ask for help. You're not alone in this whole process. if you can have a family member come by, a friend come by, make them aware of what you're doing and share your to-do list with them, and make sure they're on the same page as you and what you have to do. Again, there are people that, professional organizers exist that do the exact same thing. They're here to simplify this process for you, basically cut down that overwhelm and turn this new transition into something that it doesn't have to be that difficult, basically, right? So they're here for either the heavy lifting, or they're here to coach you on that decision-making process when it comes to decluttering, what you should keep, what you could maybe let go. The decision's always yours, but they're kind of there to help coach you on that. So we've gone through the big process of, cutting down your belongings. You've downsized your belongings. You've broken it down to only the things that you need, you use, you love. Now what? So organizing, basically, it's, for me, what does it mean to be organized? I love using this photo as an example because this is what kind of goes through my brain when I think about a disorganized space. If you look at the first image here, pieces are just kind of everywhere. If you were to ask me to find a specific piece, I wouldn't know where to start, right? So this photo represents chaos. It's very disorganized. It would take me a long time to find what I'm looking for. Now, the second image here, it's about taking those pieces and making sense of those items. You're kind of building that system. So again, if you were to look for a certain item, you know where to look. It's more calming for your brain. It's pieces coming together to form that clear picture. So being organized means that you have a system in place that allows you to find anything that you're looking for when you need it. So now that we've downsized our belongings, now it's time to talk about organization and ways to maintain an organized space. There are a lot of benefits of being organized. And, don't even get me started. I can spend hours talking about how an organized space, out of order brings inner calm. I truly believe that saying. And for me, having an organized space was essential for me to have that calm in my life, have that peace in my life, and just to kind of feel like I'm on top of things. So being organized helps you save money. When you are, it helps you prevent from buying duplicates. So when you know where your items are when you need them, you can just go straight and get that item rather than go to the store. You know you need that certain screwdriver and you can't find it anywhere. You have to go find a second one. So being organized definitely helps you save money, avoids you having buy duplicates. It helps you save time. One of the key factors, that's something that I'll never forget, a moment before I became an organizer, I think it was during tax time, and I had to look for a certain paper in my home. Now I have a filing cabinet, where I keep my papers. I had a pile of papers at my entryway, because when I would come in, I would just kind of drop that paper there. I even had a pile of paper, by my bedside table, because when my kids were young, that's when I kind of had some downtime, and I would sit down at my bed and look through some papers. So tax time came around, I needed a certain paper, and I basically tore my house apart just trying to find it. And, it took, I would say, like a good half afternoon for, a good portion of my day, just trying to find that paper. And it made me really realize the value of my time and the value of, if I knew where that paper was kept, like if I had a home for that paper, I would have gone just straight there. I knew where it was. I wouldn't be wasting an afternoon. Something I could be spending time with my kids. I could be, spending time on doing something I love. Here I am, tearing my house apart looking for a paper. So, being organized definitely helps you save time, boosts your energy, boosts your productivity. It helps you sleep better. There was actually a study done by St. Lawrence University who basically said that a messy bedroom can lead to a poor night's sleep and increased anxiety. that people who have clutter in their rooms often take longer to fall asleep than those who have neat and tidy bedrooms. And I totally get that, because for me, when I'm going to bed and I see piles of clutter in my room, what that does is that's just silent reminders shouting at me, oh, you didn't put the laundry away, or, you still have this to tackle tomorrow. And it's just constant noise in my head, telling me, oh, you have to do this, you didn't get this done. So having that neat and clear bedside and, your in your bedroom really helps you have that peaceful night's sleep. Again, brings peace into your life, decreases overwhelm. It helps improve your relationship, and again, frees up time for other activities. And you can spend time with people you love rather than take a whole day and, work on your space. Okay, so one of the most important tips that I will share with you for maintaining an organized space is to have a place for everything and everything in its place. What that basically means is clutter is usually formed when an item doesn't have a home. So if you have a thing in your hand, you don't really know where it goes, you just kind of place it on any free surface, that's clutter. It doesn't have a fixed home. Sometimes it's on your counter, sometimes it's on, the steps for you to bring it upstairs. It doesn't have a real home. So when it comes time for you to find that item, you don't know where, you never set that home, you never created that home in the first place, so you don't know where to go when you need it. So assign everything in your home to have a home, a place where that item lives. That will definitely help you know where that item is when you need to go get it. Now, my second tip is, even if it seems obvious, always label. You don't need to have a fancy label maker to label your things. Even if you want to put like a Post-it, or you use painter's tape with a Sharpie. The secret about labeling basically is, when you label something, you're more than likely to return that item to its place. You're basically saying, this is where this item lives. And, that's basically the way to assign a home to that item. So if you have something, you know where it goes, you can put it back in place. And it's that reminder that, okay, this goes back to this place. And if you live with someone else, again, it's not just for you to be organized, it's a great way for them to also know where things are. So you don't have to always tell them that this item goes back here. Process incoming mail before it even enters your home. You could even have a sign that says no junk mail if junk mail is a problem for you and taking up space into your home. So I usually have a recycling bin just that I keep outside my home. So any papers that I'm bringing in, I just put them straight into the recycling if I know it's obvious junk mail, right? So if it's addressed to the owners of the house and it's not addressed directly to me, I'm not even opening that mail. I know it's going straight into my recycling bin. So again, this will really help prevent that stack of papers at your entryway. You could keep the papers that you do need to take action on over there, but you're cutting down that clutter. You're cutting down on that noise. You're not bringing everything into the house, just the items that you have to look at when you have some free space. Follow the 1 in, 1 out rule. So I love this. It's a great way to maintain your space. Now, let's say you're gifted a new sweater. You have a new sweater. Rather than add on to your existing, closet and making that, filling that up, basically, maybe look through your closet and find a sweater that is not in the best condition, or maybe that's something that's kind of wearing out a little bit. So you have a brand new sweater, and you put that into your closet, and maybe you can pull out something that maybe is not in the best condition. So this will really help you avoid getting into the situation you were in before, where you have tons of things. We've already decluttered our space, so we don't want to get into that position where we're adding more things to our space without removing items from our home. So again, that one in, one out rule. Always leave a room with an item in hand. So if you've been to a restaurant, you'll notice the way waiters work. You know, if they're coming and they're passing by a table, chances are they're taking away a plate. Or if they're going to another table, they're going to, take something else from there. So they're constantly, there's always something in their hand. If you're leaving a room and you want to just take your cup with you, do that so it's not piling up for you to do at the end of the day. And your room, your space is constantly being tidied without you, again, taking out a whole afternoon to get that task done. Now, the 1 minute rule. If a task takes you a minute or less to complete, do it as soon as you realize that it needs to be done. So if you're entering your home and, you're tired, the last thing you want to do is hang up your coat and put your handbag away. And it's just easier to toss things for you to do later. If it takes a minute to do, just get it done. Your future self will thank you for this. So, rather than come and again, you're tired, it's just easy to throw everything down. Just take that time, put it away so you don't have to do it later. So I listed some books that I've personally read on organizing that I feel maybe you might enjoy. If you want to take a list down, you don't have to write them down. I did share this link with Caitlin that she could maybe share with those who are interested for my presentation. And again, just some books that talk a little bit more about organizing, decluttering, downsizing that maybe you might enjoy. And if you do want to connect with me, here are my information, my numbers here. If you have a smartphone, you can actually just scan that QR code listed below, and it will pull up my information directly onto your phone, and you can save my contact there.